Hello, and welcome to The Canadian Story, where we discuss what Canada is, what Canada could be, and what Canada should be.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Canadian Story. Today we are joined by Carlee Dowsett, who is potentially the only reason my wife didn't murder me on our wedding day. She was our day of coordinator for our wedding, and she got us through. She got us through one of the craziest days and best days of my life. She's an incredible woman who I highly, highly respect. Carlee, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So first things first, like most episodes, I want to ask you something that you love about our country, Canada.
Sure. This is probably going to sound stupid because I feel like everyone who listens to this will be like, so obvious. I love how everyone is nice. If you know me, I think I'm a nice person. I would like to say I'm a nice person.
I can already tell that you're definitely a nice person.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. And for those who don't know, I am dating someone who travels a lot, and I didn't know how mean other people were until I left Canada, and I visited him elsewhere in this world, and I was like, Canadians are nice.
We are quite the kind folk, aren't we?
Yes.
What would you say the defining feature of like how Canadians show kindness? Do you know what I mean? Like, what do you think it is about how we interact with one another that we define as kind, right?
Yeah, I would probably say the levels in our voice, how we talk I find we talk very dramatically and like, we use such exciting words. I think that's what makes us seem so nice, and we say sorry all the time.
True.
I am like truly Canadian that way, where I say sorry all of the time. But I feel like say sorry.
She's sorry that she's so sorry all the time.
Honestly, how many times have I told Zach I'm sorry for being in your way at your work?
Oh, all the time.
All the time.
And
I'm
literally,
like 50.
You've never once actually been there. You also spent my entire wedding day running around fixing everything that was going on. Like the guy who married us got a flat tire on the way.
Oh, wow.
Late, and, there was a whole bunch of stuff going on. And she's running around, killing the whole day, just apologizing to me for things she doesn't need to apologize for. I was like, Carlee, stop. You're amazing.
I'm sorry the tire broke. I'm sorry it got a flat.
Things that you have no control over. It's true. Yeah. That's so Canadian. You are quintessentially Canadian. I love it.
Truly. Like at Zach's work, the first time I met Zach, which was like 2017 or something like that, I was probably, 5 meters away from his station, and I was still like, sorry, am I in your way? Just tell me if I'm in your way. And he was like, you're fine. I'll tell you if you're in my way.
Which I do appreciate, but you were so far out of the way. I was like,
it's almost distracting how far away you are.
Yeah. Come closer and
I was like, I can't. And Zach gives me a road case to sit on, and I'm like, am I okay to sit on this? I'm not going to break it, am I?
Really, that road case might have carried 10,000 pounds.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Yeah.
I love this. That's a good... We haven't had anyone on the podcast who's brought that particular thing up that they love, and I just love that you love it.
Honestly, it just makes me feel so much better about being Canadian.
Yeah. I have the same experience when I've traveled. I just love getting back here.
Oh my goodness. For sure.
I like going on vacation. It's great. I love coming home.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, speaking of vacation, Carlee is one of two people who gets to hold the prestige position of being one of the only two people who crashed my honeymoon.
Oh.
Not only did she coordinate my wedding, she showed up on my
crashed your honeymoon. Wow.
It was the funniest thing. So Melissa and I planned to go down to Punta Cana for our honeymoon, and it just so happened that Joel and Carlee had also booked vacation
on the same time.
Yeah, so we were at
literally
different resorts. But they were awesome. They took us out on an excursion day. We did some zip lining. A monkey pissed on my head.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think we should insert photo here.
Yes, the monkey did pee on my head.
Truly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's not joking.
Like
and
a
I
lot.
feel blessed.
It ran down the side of my face onto my shoulder.
But Zach is the perfect, out of the 4 people that were there, you are the perfect person for it to have happened to.
True.
I feel like I took it the best.
You're the...
One can.
'Kay,
You know,
think-
Zach's the kind of guy, a monkey pisses on his head, and he's like, well, this isn't what I wanted to happen, but I'll get through it.
I think anybody, love our significant others, Mel and Joel would not have taken it very well.
No.
Joel would have been the worst.
I feel like you would have been highly disappointed, but you would have rallied. And you're such a joyful spirit. You're always looking to the positives. And you would have rallied, but you would have been disappointed. I was I was just like, well, I already married her, so chances are she's
not going to leave me for this. Yeah.
I smell a little bit, but whatever.
Actually, that's the funny thing. I thought it was like, the smell is what I was most concerned about.
You didn't
It did
smell.
not smell at all.
Really?
No, not at all.
I'm still
It
not
literally-
thrilled that a monkey pissed on my head, but it didn't smell.
Well, this has been a very interesting tangent.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I love it. So you guys have known each other for 4 years. What would you say the moment of bonding was?
Carlee,
For
go.
me,
Yeah.
first time I met Zach, because I was so out of my element, and I'm an outgoing person, but I'm also a shy person, if that makes sense. If I'm very out of my element, and I was very out of my element, I met Zach while he was working, and that's when I was asking him 10 trillion times if I was in his way.
Right.
But Zach, love everybody on the team. Zach was the person that was just there and making conversation with me, because I have no idea about music and all that kind of stuff. I have no idea. So I didn't even know what to talk about. I'd be like, hi, how's your day? Good?
Right,
Cool.
right.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm glad you're having a good day.
Yeah.
Actually, Zach and our other cousin Dan will sometimes start talking music, and I just go into my own little world because it's like they're speaking another language. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
It's terrifying.
So
Yeah.
to fill in some context for the listeners, Carlee is dating Joel Cassidy, the drummer from Walk Off the Earth, who I work for when we go out and tour. I take care of setting up his drums and making sure that all of his gear works. So I can imagine for someone in a fresh relationship stepping into a show day. Show days are nuts. They're very high energy. They're very busy. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of moving gear and heavy equipment and lights and sound, and it's loud, and I can imagine it being overwhelming. So,
AKA why I asked if I was in the way.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it was terrifying. I was shaking. There were quite a few times where I was like, Joel, I don't need to come. Like, I can meet them another time. I don't need to be there. And he's like, no, come. And I was like, okay. And
So
I was
how
literally
did you
sweating.
and Joel meet?
Tinder!
Woo!
Yeah, it was...
The
I don't
glass
even know.
slipper of our generation.
Oh, never thought that would be the way, but yeah, Tinder. And when I told my parents about it, my dad was like, you know that musicians are all about sex and drugs and rock and roll. And I was like, do you know who Walk Off the Earth is? Like, true.
That's true.
Yeah.
But who isn't about sex and drugs and rock and roll? Like, come
Apparently.
on.
literally.
My dad was highly against it.
So, Carlee, I want to highlight what I consider to be an amazing story. So, Carlee is an incredible... I touched on her coordinating her wedding. She's an incredible event planner. She does corporate gigs. She does weddings. Her attention to detail is unrivaled.
And where do we say God is?
God is in the details, is something we like to say. And if God isn't there, it's definitely Carlee. So, much like myself in the touring world, when COVID hit, the event world went out the window. So, Carlee, tell us about your experience losing all of that and what you did to pivot.
So I started EVERLEE Event Studio at the end of 2018, and I had just gotten myself organized and my thoughts organized with what I really wanted Everleigh to be in terms of weddings and corporate events. And that was about 1 month before COVID hit. And so, yeah. Yeah, it was great. It was so much fun. And I had just started getting clients, both weddings and corporate, and all have postponed 2 or 3 times except for one. Yeah, it was great. But honestly, there are so many wedding planners and event planners in Toronto, which is where I live, and all over Canada, and I knew everyone was going to be pivoting, and I knew a lot of people, like, you can only be so creative with COVID.
Yeah, and you're not going to be, we wouldn't, I imagine, be making the same kind of money just because the events cannot be the same size, right?
Exactly. And people were creating these at-home packages and all that kind of stuff. And like I said, you can only be so creative. So I figured everyone's probably going to be making the same packages. And I am totally for that, but I don't want to be a part of that because no one knows who I am because I'm so brand new that I don't want to confuse people. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to give myself about 2 months, see what I can come up with, and I'd like to say I'm creative. So I wanted to do something that was totally different than event planning because I have done event planning since 2014, and I was working stupid hours, like 60, 70, 80 hours all the time.
Like worse hours than me.
Wow.
It was brutal. It was honestly brutal. And I've learned so much through it, but I needed a beat. So
yeah.
I decided that I was going to try a craft. I call it a craft and a hobby because I still can't wrap my head around the fact that it's now become a business for me. But there's this thing called polymer clay, and it's literally like Play-Doh, but you bake it, and it's like lightweight stuff. I don't know. So I had gotten a pair of earrings from a woman in Australia 3 years ago, and I always wanted to make it, but because I was busy, never had the chance. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna buy this clay, and I'm just gonna try it. So I tried it. My first pieces were crap. They were absolute trash. It looked like a 5-year-old had done it, like fingerprints stuck in the clay, all this stuff. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. But then I started posting pictures on my own personal Instagram because I was like, look what I'm doing during COVID. I'm
being
earrings.
crafty.
Yeah. Well, everyone's doing all like the TikTok trends and making that foamy coffee. I'm like, I'm making earrings. Yay. But then somehow I was like, I don't know. People just were like, I would buy a pair. And I was like, oh, I guess I need to really up my craft because there's fingerprints in my current earrings. So I was like, okay. So I made a brand and I started an Instagram account. And literally, based off my insights, about 99% of my purchasers come from Instagram.
Yeah.
And so I make earrings and jewelry, and I've just started going out into like the homewares section. And I started selling in what month? I believe it was end of May 2020. And so I don't know what happened, but I'm almost at 8,000 followers on Instagram.
And is that on the Sunday Brunch page?
Yes, on Sunday Brunch, yes. And so the brand, Joel, my boyfriend, thinks Sunday Brunch was stupid. When I pitched him the idea, he was like, Sunday Brunch sounds so silly. And I was like, no, trust me. Girls who wear earrings are girls who like to go to brunch. And that was my thought
that
process.
is an example of knowing your customer
That's
avatar.
knowing your market.
Yes. I don't know. And Joel's not a girl that goes to brunch. So I was like, dude, back up. It's my brand. And I had already, like, the branding and everything is literally a rinse and repeat of my Everleigh branding in a different color. So I was like,
that's good use of your resources at your disposal.
Yeah. So my friend, who's also a designer, I was like, can you just change it to a yellow, please? And she did. Also, such a side note, just found out that someone sneaky, has actually taken the Sunday Brunch branding and is using it as a paint chip color for Lowe's.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
They just launched it, and it's my exact brand color. And the color's called Sunday Brunch.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
You're-
My designer actually sent it to me. She was like, yo, what the heck? And I was like, yeah, I know. Yeah.
Wow,
Wow.
you're a household name.
You're not only that, they're naming paint after you now.
I know. I was like, that's sneaky. I did actually some research on it a couple times. I was like investigating a few days ago. And the shade number used to be a different name up until recently. And I was like,
Oh, and they changed it to Sunday Brunch.
I'm like, which one of you 8K are doing something sneaky?
Which one? We need to find this out. The listeners to this podcast need to discover what's going on here.
Go forward to the internet and research.
Go forth, internet mob.
We release
I think
you.
it's fun. Yeah. It's been wild. So yes, it's so much fun. I love being my own boss and like taking it day by day. I was my own boss before, but I was like so stressed about getting clients and everything. Now I'm just kind of like
So do you make it all yourself, everything?
everything. I had
Wow.
earrings on until I had to put these headphones on. Want to see a pair?
Right. So this is amazing. I need to know more about this. Like, so basically you were bored and you're the kind of person who doesn't believe in being bored. So you just created a whole new business out of nothing.
Yeah, man. Oh, I don't know why, but I did.
Which is incredible. And she's being very, very modest, but because she makes the earrings herself, she can only make so many at one time. And every time she restocks her website with new earrings, they sell out like the same day. They're just gone.
So how many hours are you putting in on this? Like, this sounds like it's a lot of work.
It's a ton of work. So I'm now launching ring dishes. So they're like little catch-all dishes. And I made 15 of them 2 days ago. And then you have to sand them, but it's a 3-step process. Sorry, getting into the details. And it took me fully 7 hours yesterday to sand 15 items. And they're like this big. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
it takes a long time.
Where can our listeners find these wonderful things?
You can find me on Instagram at Sunday Brunch CA.
Sunday
And-
Brunch CA. And what do you think it is? Like, I love that you're handcrafting them. I think people love handcrafted things. Also, this is not just something they can go buy at a Walmart or even at a specialty store, because they say she's the only one who makes them, and they're in a very limited supply. This is not mass production. This is putting love and care into your craft. So I want you describe the first one. You're like, there's fingerprints on my earrings. Like, describe to me the process, the details of how you got good at this.
Oh,
Like
man.
what did you learn that made it so that you could take this from, because lots of people like to craft, but you took it from crafting to actually crafting something so nice that you're selling out the day that you put anything up.
Yeah, I think being an event planner and being detail oriented really plays into it, because I know business, if that makes sense.
Yes, you do. Yeah, you've been doing it for 7 years.
Yeah, and I went to school for business, so I know the voice that's needed to be able to be seen, I guess. It's not like I'm blowing up or anything like this, but I have a general understanding of it. And honestly, I could not bear the thought of giving someone a pair of earrings that had fingerprints in it.
Right,
And I know,
right.
To me, I'm like, well, I wouldn't wear that. That's kind of, like, yes, I would love to support a friend, even if they were crap earrings. I would buy them just to support them. But I wanted to take myself seriously, because for some reason it had started working, and so I just spent hours upping my game. Like, so for example, with clay, you use a pasta machine to literally roll out the clay, and it's called conditioning it so you don't get air bubbles or anything. I spent so many hours doing that, because at first I was hand rolling it, and like I wear gloves and finger condoms. They're literally a condom for your finger.
Yep.
Yes, like all of that kind of stuff. And I literally get a knot in my chest, like a muscle knot, from like actually doing,
right,
from
right.
cranking the machine all the time. But I really think between one, I didn't want to embarrass myself and I wanted to be taken seriously, and two, having the general knowledge of how to be seen as professional and do things professionally really made it work.
Yeah, Peter Thiel says that competition is bad for business, right? And you were just describing event planning, which basically you came up in one of the most competitive industries probably in the entire country. Here's what I think. I really believe in competition, not because it's good for business, but because it makes you stronger. And Zach's and I are in a similar boat. Like I came up in politics. There's not very much that's more competitive than politics. Like you ride or die, right? And you music. Everyone wants to make it in music. Name a person who wouldn't want to be
A rock star.
a rock star.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be Hannah Montana / Miley Cyrus. So
Well,
that
there
was
you
my
go, right?
childhood
Well, you've
goal.
got the connections
Well, you've
now.
got
If
the
you want to pivot
if you
one
wanna
more
do
time,
it, you can just like.
No, thank you.
So I love that you basically grew up as an adult in this uber competitive environment that forced you to become really good at details. Because if you weren't good at details, someone else was going to come along and take all of your clients, right? And it's funny because as quote unquote weird as it sounds, like you said, oh, it's clay earrings. No. You have built a certain way of thinking about the world that has allowed you to do something that you enjoy. Like it's obvious that you enjoy making these. So
Yeah.
how would you recommend to the listeners? Because we have a lot of entrepreneurs on here and politicians and musicians, and we had Zach's sister Aisha on, and she had some really cool insights on how do we develop ourselves into the optimal machine, right? Olympic level gymnast that she was. So how did you develop yourself into this person who could take what seemingly from the outside are two entirely different things? There's what do those two things have in common?
earrings and event planning.
And yet be really, what is it about you that makes you good at both?
This is going to sound super cheesy. I don't take no for an answer. I'm really hard on myself.
I
and I'm
love that.
Yeah, I don't, if someone tells me I can't do it.
Never say die, right? You
Yes.
just persist, yes.
Yes, and I am the first one to admit my stuff was crap at the beginning. I don't care, but I'm the person that will keep going, and I think that a lot of people, especially younger people now, if they don't get something right away, they just let it die. They put it over to the side. But for me, I'm not going to say no to myself. If I'm enjoying it, I might as well just try to own this craft, really, and just keep going. And I think that really had something to do with being able to go from an event planner to a jewelry designer.
Yeah, I agree.
Sounds so weird.
I love asking people questions like that because it gets down to their core values. Mm-hmm. And I love this. Persistence is one of your core values, right? You're like, and I want to point something out to the listeners that I think is really important. We're dealing with someone who's not gone into two different industries now and done what almost no one does, not just survive, but thrive. And why is she thriving? Because she looks at the details. Right? Because I'll take myself for example. I'm terrible at details.
I know.
It's really not my gift at all, and so very far from God. But
I'm right here.
But I'll say this: I played golf since I was about 7 years old. I always say my dad loves two things in the world, and maybe three. He loves God, golf, and family. Right, and it's in that order. I'm just teasing, but the point is, I have never got good at golf, and hearing you describe that, I've known this. It's been I've been circling around it, and just the way when you said it, it made me realize it's because I never go into the details. I'll keep playing it. I never give up, but I also so it isn't just about not giving up. Is my point.
Yes.
There's another thing there, and I want you to pull that out for people.
Yeah, so I'm a phenomenal stalker.
Oh, I see. So that is the way to success.
Stalking. Okay.
I'm a phenomenal stalker. So when I started and I had fingerprints in all of my stuff, and I was like, this is trash. How do I become better? I literally, and this is where competition comes into, although I don't consider other clay makers competition because everybody is literally pulling all these art things from their brain that I would never even think of. So they're all doing their own style. But things like, how do I not get air bubbles in my clay, which is a very common issue. I would literally look at all of these clay makers' Instagram accounts and go to their earliest posts and go to their little saved stories and see if they were ever posting photos or videos of like sneaky processes that I could somehow tap into. And like, I don't know, I used... This may sound mean, but I used my head. I was like, okay, obviously there's something wrong with what I'm doing. How do I get to where I want to be? And so I was going through each step of, okay, well, the hardware that I use, does it rust? Yes or no? And so I was just making step by step of what makes this a piece that somebody would want to buy.
See, she's so humble, but that is wisdom.
It's incredible.
That's wisdom.
And I want to add something to it too that I think that I certainly look at you and respect you for. I have never once ever in my life seen Carlee abdicate responsibility of something to someone else. You always take responsibility.
That's the highest praise that can be given
for all of your outcomes. And I think looking at your process and doing the stalking and going back, and so you have a problem. You have the bubbles in your clay. You recognize the problem, but you never blame anything else. You simply take the responsibility upon yourself to figure it out and fix it. And I've never not seen you do that. And I think that's incredible. And I think that's one of the reasons that you have started 2 companies in the past 5 years that have done well.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think I was just raised that way. My parents are super similar to me in that sense. And it was like hammered into me as a child as like, what you decide to do is on you. And that's great. And they supported me through everything. When COVID hit, they were a little bit concerned, but then they saw that it was successful, and they're like, you do you. They were concerned when I wanted to start EVERLEE. They were concerned when COVID hit, but they've always supported me, and I think that's where the responsibility aspect comes in to play as well. I have a big support system.
You grew up in Canada.
Yes.
Where did you grow up?
Burlington, Ontario.
Burlington, perfect. So what was it like to grow up in Burlington?
Oh, man. So I have a mother and a father and an older sister, and so we were like the stereotypical Burlington family. There's a saying of the Burlington bubble. So if you were born in Burlington, you normally never leave because it's like a cushy, safe, like basically wealthy town, all that kind of stuff. And so when
right on the lake.
Yeah, exactly. So when I left and went to Toronto, people were like, "What the heck?" That's so weird. But it was great. I had so many family members live around me, and my world was really my family. And I was just a kid that loved to hang out with my cousins, go to my Nana and Papa's house, go swimming with my sister, make up dances with my friends. Like, I was a normal kid. Well, there's no such thing as a normal kid. I would say it was normal for me.
So you grew up like going to school and you had all these peers, and like one of the things I've noticed about people who are successful like yourself is something is different about them than their peers. Now, if you look at the rest of your peers, I imagine the majority of them are not doing as well as you are. And what do you think that is?
Yes. So for everyone listening, and for those who don't know me, I have a droopy lip, and I was a child who was made fun of all day, every day for having a droopy lip. And I was like always so sad about it. And especially when I started to like boys and they would make fun of me and all this kind of stuff. And I just felt so bad for myself and blah, blah, blah. And then my parents were like, I don't know, when you're a child and you're being told you're beautiful by your parents, you're like, yeah, thanks, like, go away. But that really, I don't know, that really shaped who I was, because I realized that it doesn't really matter what I look like, because if I'm not a nice person, nothing else really matters. And the people who were making fun of me weren't nice people at the end of the day. Even though they
Right.
were Canadian, they weren't being nice.
How not Canadian?
How un-Canadian
know.
of them.
How
Ew.
dare they?
Exactly. And so I was
I
like,
love that. I love that.
Yeah.
You experienced. It's always something. Isn't it, Zach? There's always something that sets you apart from the rest, and you have to make something of yourself
yeah.
because the group is rejecting you.
For sure. I was hardcore made fun of. It sounds so silly, but I was dating the quarterback of the high school football team, and I was made fun of for that because I was considered a nerd, and all of the popular girls were like, I remember I was at a football game, they were drunk, underage, but they were like screaming at me, and I'm this child. I was very protected as a kid. Like, my first sip of alcohol was, I think, in university. Like, very protected child, and so I was just totally like made fun of, felt like an outcast, but I don't know, it just kind of made me realize, like, yeah, okay, I'm an outcast, but I'm happy with who I am. I know I'm a nice person. I'd rather look different and be nice than be mean.
Wow. Okay. What do you think was the moment? Because you could have become bitter and angry, and like so many people become bitter, angry, resentful when things like that happen. I know I did for a while, and I was also, I experienced a lot of making fun of it. I think I was a little bit of a sensitive kid, so like I thought I would take it personally, right? And I'm so impressed that you didn't go down that path, because almost everyone goes down the path of victimhood and woe is me. So what do you think is different? What did you do differently?
I think it's actually similar to what Zach was saying in terms of the responsibility. Like, I don't really let people get in my head. Like, even, I don't know why, as a young kid, yes, it did bother me sometimes, especially when I was getting older and starting to like people, but at the end of the day, honestly, this sounds silly, but I think it's just wired in me, and my parents knew I was insecure about my lip, and they just, literally, any chance they could, you look so beautiful, blah, 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 like, all of that kind of stuff. They just always gave me the confidence that I didn't have in myself. I'm very appreciative for my family.
We can thank Carlee's parents for her.
Who are lovely. I've met both of them.
They are lovely.
They're wonderful people.
I think
Yeah.
good parenting is really a lot rarer and more underrated in this world.
For sure. For sure. Joel, my boyfriend Joel, and my parents have conversations about parenting all the time now. And, like, Joel was roasting them and trying to get them to see how they would parent kids nowadays with TikTok and all that kind of stuff.
I can't imagine having to navigate my, 13-year-old daughter wanting to do dances for people on the internet.
That's
I'd be like,
exactly what Joel was talking to my dad about.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would do.
What do you
I don't
do?
know what I would do, because you can't tell your daughter. Well, you can tell your daughter no if she's 13. It's
You're legally
you're-
allowed.
You're legally
but-
allowed to do that, but you also can't crush their spirit. So I don't even know how you navigate that. I have my hands full enough with 2 cats.
Oh, dude. Dog, I'm done. I can't. But also, side note of an additional thing I think that helped me is my parents kept me super busy, and so I never really had time to get to that rebellious stage of sulking and being sad for myself. I was, and maybe this is why I'm always on the go now too, because I was always doing leadership club.
Right,
and I was a
right.
dancer, and I was a cheerleader, and I did all of that kind of stuff. And so I think by keeping myself busy, I just kind of was able to guard myself from really thinking about it. And at that age, it wasn't really something where I think you sit and sulk in it if you're busy. And just kind of let it get off my shoulder, off my back, whatever that saying is.
Yeah, I love that. And really what it comes down to is you got the love you needed when you were young enough to feel secure.
For sure. For sure. And there's been so many times in my life where like I feel like I'm crashing down, and my family's like, nope, you've got this, and they've just built me back up, and I'm really where I am today is because of my family, so I'm super thankful for that.
I feel the same way. My family, because I didn't exactly take a traditional trajectory with how I've lived my life, you know.
Yep.
I got into school and then was like, I don't want to go, and chose not to go to school, and then somehow managed to land a job and told my parents, I was like, yeah, so I'm just going to like fly to Turkey by myself and meet up with this band over there and like do some shows. I can't believe they said yes.
I'm shocked.
But my parents have always supported me
Yep.
like with everything that they have. And I think, and I see a similar parallel in your life, and it's and I think it's an undervalued rock in our society and generation. Having parents who are behind you changes everything.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. Well, I wanted to hear from both of you. So, but first from you. So I always thought for a long time, everyone was like, how is Zach going to ever outshine his sisters? Because like, I'm sure you felt that way, kind of in their shadow.
Oh my gosh!
all your life.
So for the listeners that don't know, both my sisters were high level gymnasts. They both
I
competed.
say they were Olympic level. They were Olympic
well,
level.
they were Olympic level.
Yeah.
They both competed for Team Canada on the national and international stage. And what a lot of people don't know about gymnastics is you peak really around like between 15 and 18. So when I was a kid growing up, like playing house league hockey, my sisters were competing for Team Canada on the world stage.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it was hard to not feel like a failure.
But I think it molded you into the person you are.
It certainly taught me, I don't have to get my drive from anyone else. I decided when I was very young that I was going to make something of myself, and I wasn't going to be the child of the family who didn't do something awesome.
Yeah. Like
So
nobody wants that role.
No one really has to motivate me anymore. I motivate myself.
And so, what about you? What's your relationship like with your sister?
Oh my gosh, she's the best. She's my best friend. Totally different. My sister is Caitlin, and she is a very quiet, shy. She's 4 years older than me. So it's kind of funny because when we were children, I would bully her.
Oh no!
As the younger sibling?
As
Yeah.
the younger sibling,
Yeah.
no less. I love that.
I would fully just, like, I was the one that would want to wrestle, and Caitlin would be like, okay. And she just let me tackle her. But my sister and I have a unique relationship because Caitlin lives in Stony Creek. So we live a fair distance apart, and especially with COVID, we don't see each other, but we have always just been best friends and always there for each other. And I remember when we were little and I would hurt myself, my sister was the first one to always just be there. And there's never been a competition between the two of us at all. Caitlin would always support me in everything I did. And when we were in high school, we were able to I was in grade 9 and she was doing is it a leap? No, what is it called? When you do grade 13.
A gap year.
Yeah, she did that.
It's called a victory lap.
Yes, that's it. I was going to say she did a leap year, but I knew that was wrong. And Caitlin was the one, because that's when I started really to be made fun of as well. Caitlin was the one that was always defending me. And so she's always had my back. It's unique though because she is so quiet. She doesn't do it in like an offensive in your face way. She was just kind of like, this sounds so weird, but like the silent guardian, even though she's only 4 years older than me, just always watching and making sure I'm okay.
That's really the job of older siblings
Yeah,
in a lot of
she tells
ways.
me to
Yeah.
shut up all the time now, though, because I talk too much. She's like, Carlee, I can't.
This is who I am.
Yeah. And she's like, I always need an Advil after I see you.
Oh, boy.
You're the most wonderful and bubbly person I know.
Thank you. I think she agrees, but she's just like, oh my God, you're so loud.
People have definitely accused me of that before.
Oh yeah, but it works. I don't know. It's just like when people think of Carlee and Caitlin, it's like We've got the silent, older, responsible sibling and the wacky, weird one.
I love that the listeners can't see it, but how happy she is in saying that. Like, that's an internal locus of control. That's loving yourself, is loving who you actually are. Not the mask that we prepare sometimes for the world, but loving, for example, like, I've just embraced the fact that I really love Star Wars, and maybe it makes me nerdy, but I've now got pictures.
I
of it
don't
and stuff,
care.
right?
Yeah.
I don't care anymore,
Yeah.
and that's the best part about getting older.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
Zach
for
was asking
sure.
me the other day, what are the 30s like? And I'm like, my 30s are a million times better than my 20s were. They're not even comparable.
I wouldn't know. I'm still young.
You're just a little baby like
Just a
me.
little baby.
Honestly, I wish I knew, or I wish I remember when that change happened for me, because even though I was made fun of and I didn't really care, there's still when you're a teenager, you're still gonna have
being a teenager is the worst time of life.
yeah, you can still be confident, but you still have all of your issues in your mind or whatever. And I don't know when it changed, but one day I was just like, I don't care that I have a droopy lip. I don't care that I'm outgoing. I don't care that people tell me I have way too much energy. Like, I am who I am. If you don't like me, that's fine. I'm not offended.
Yeah.
You don't have to be
Right,
here.
right. Yeah,
Like,
yep.
I really don't care. And if you do enjoy being around me, great. That makes me happy. But at the end of the day, people just need to do what's best for them. And if that means not being around me or something like that, then fine. Do you.
I love that you included, if you don't like me, I'm not offended. I
Yeah.
think that's a hard one
Yes,
for people
that's
to get.
very hard for people,
Yeah.
generally speaking.
But it is a freeing thing, and I respect that in you, that not only did you decide that you were going to be yourself, but you just weren't even going to worry about the people who didn't like
It's
that
not
person.
worth it. Because I used to be offended by it because I didn't understand how being bubbly was too much for people. But I think because I have a sister who is so opposite of me and so quiet, I should say she's the nicest person I know, but she's just so quiet. I understand that sometimes it's just a lot. I'm just a lot for people. And so having a sister and being through that with her for 28 years, I'm just like, I'm not offended. It's fine.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Not being offended is an underrated quality in a person.
For sure. Because a lot of people just, I don't want to say decide, but people just decide to take offense to many things.
Yeah.
And then they just like brew in it and it makes things just worse. I'm like, who cares?
Water off a duck's back, right?
Right.
Sure.
And when you
Yeah.
when you allow yourself to get offended over things like that, you're not negatively affecting anyone other than yourself.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
You're the only person that you're hurting.
Exactly. It's true.
I know, I've never understood that about, I mean, and I'm kind of like, I think I've come through it a little bit, but as Zach can attest to, I've always been an incredibly passionate person, which at times can result in extreme anger, right? And I think, the older I get, the more I've controlled that. But I realized every time I was getting angry, it was because my ego was bruised. And I'm a little embarrassed how long it took me to figure that out. But like, but I get how those people think who get offended. And I just want to say to anyone, like, it's always useless to get offended.
For sure. And I
Always.
totally understand that it's hard to stop yourself from being offended. But once you get there, it's like, oh,
Your life
a
will
happy
be so
person.
much better.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
you're
true.
just going to be so much happier.
Yeah. No, because I used to get offended by things, but now I really don't know what made me decide not to be offended, but whatever.
You're smart.
I'm happy
brain.
with it.
Well, I think it's a lot of what you said. It's that you were so loved. It sounds like basically unconditionally.
Yeah.
That
for sure.
that unconditional love gave you the foundation to be like, you know what? I can love myself. I've been watching people do it all of my life. I've been watching people love me. Why can't I do that for myself?
So, such a side note, but it has to do with it. So because of my droopy lip, and I was embarrassed by it, I never smiled with my teeth. Never. Like, that would be the end all for me. Like,
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, probably about 2 years ago, I had a photo taken of me and I was accidentally like mid-smile and so my teeth were showing. And I was like, oh, I don't actually hate the way I look. Yes, my mouth is droopy, but I don't hate it. And I showed it to my parents and they cried.
Hey.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So like that unconditional love.
Well, that's how the fact that they cried just shows again how much they love you.
Exactly. And like they would have never in a million years been like, Carlee, your beautiful smile with your teeth, it doesn't matter, because they knew I was uncomfortable with it. So they didn't encourage it. And so the fact that they just kind of let me be not okay with it and then all of a sudden become okay with the way my mouth and smile was, they were like, oh, the best day.
Oh, what better gift could a parent have than to watch their child overcome their insecurities?
For sure. And now I prefer smiling with my teeth. So there's that. there you go, Mom and Dad.
I love it. Well, Carlee, we're all out of time. Thank you so much for joining us. Everyone, please check out Sunday Brunch CA on Instagram.
Yes. Everyone go there. And you know what? You're probably not going to be able to buy anything because it's going to all be sold out. But maybe if you stock it regularly, you might get in on one of these purchases.
You'll have to check back.
You'll have to follow it closely.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you so much for your time. I love you. You're incredible. I respect you so much.
Thank you.
You're so
Love
amazing.
you.
So thank you for coming on our show.
I really
appreciate it.
enjoyed this episode. And again, Zach and I always say, the absolute best thing about our job is we just learn new things all the time.
From
That's
awesome
the best
people
part
like
of
you.
it.
From awesome people like you.
Thank you so much. That makes me blush.
Thank you for listening to The Canadian Story. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at The CAD Story. That's The CAD Story. If you enjoy this podcast, please share it with your friends and family. Let's work together to remind Canadians how great their country is.